Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be going over how to set up multiplayer via IPX on Civilization Call to Power and Call to Power 2. Now this should work on both games. They both support IPX. Should be a pretty simple method to be able to set this up. It is a little bit complicated at certain parts, but we'll be able to walk you through it in this video. And you'll be able to play multiplayer over the internet with this as well. So it's not just a LAN solution, right? You'll be able to play this with your friends across the globe, which is a big part of why on the Call to Power's Discord server, we are currently working on setting up games with this method. So enough about the setup. You might be wondering, okay, so how does this work? Okay, so what this will do is this will turn the IPX packets that will be sent out by Call to Power into what's called a UDP packet. Now, I don't want to get too technical with this, but basically this just converts the old format into a newer format that can be understood by modern computers. And then we are going to share that via ZeroTier One with other people. So yeah, a couple of quick notes in here as well, just like it says. You might not need IPX Wrapper if you're working with a really old computer. So if you're working with Windows Vista, for example, you probably won't need this. It's good to try it out and see if you're able to connect to a lobby before going ahead and going through the steps of IPX Wrapper and all of that. Also, again, you'll see an option for connecting via LAN with TCP/IP. Okay, so I tried out connecting with TCP/IP, but unfortunately it didn't work. So because of that, we're going with IPX. The reason why it didn't work is because when we would try to join the games via TCP/IP, unfortunately we weren't able to see any other players. So with that being said, here are your requirements for being able to join an existing multiplayer lobby. You're going to need the ZeroTier 16-digit network ID. If you're using something other than ZeroTier, obviously you can sub this out for this, but for the purposes of this video and for the purposes of the Call to Power Discord, we'll be using ZeroTier. The release zip file as well of IPX Wrapper, which is linked in the steps section. We'll get to that in a second. By the way, I will leave this link in the video description. And you'll also need a valid installation of the Call to Power game that you want to join as well. And by valid installation, I mean if you're joining a game that's modded, make sure that you have installed the mods. And if you're joining a game that's not modded, then make sure that you don't have any mods on it. Right? That goes for vanilla games as well. Vanilla just means without mods. So, with all further ado, let's go ahead and start with this. So, first step we're going to do is we're going to download ZeroTier One. This is their VPN solution, and we're just going to click this open inside of a new tab. Then we're going to find the installer for your operating system, whether that's Windows, Mac OS, or you can also do Linux as well down here. I also love how in Linux they have multiple different ways to download it. So, if we go ahead and click on this MSI installer, then we can go ahead and click on the little pop-up. By the way, if you're wondering what browser that I'm using, as you can see I'm using Florp, and I've customized it to put my taskbar at the bottom. So if that looks weird, that's why. So to get to where the downloads are, you just, on Windows 11, you can go to this side panel and you can just click Downloads and it should be right there. From here, just double click the installer. And then you're going to click Next through it. Now, obviously, I already have ZeroTier One installed, but for you, this will look like an installation process, and you'll just be able to set it up wherever you would like to put it. So I'm going to cancel that out for me. So let me do that. And then once you have that, this is important. You're going to want to bring up your Start menu, and then you're going to want to find this ZeroTier app. Okay. The ZeroTier app, very important that you do this every time that you want to join one of the sessions, right? Make sure that you have it started. And the way you make sure that you have it started is you just submit that, okay? So you can also click this, right? You can click open, you can click any of these. You just have to make sure that it happens. Then you're going to want to find your system tray, right? And you'll notice because I clicked it twice, I have two of them. I'm just going to quit out of one of them really fast. And then I'll just have the one. So this is the icon that you'll be looking for in your system tray. When you right click this, you'll see this little screen. Yours might look a little bit different than mine because as you can see, I've already added a Call to Power server, or I'm sorry, not server, a network. And in order to do that, you click Join New Network. Now this is where that 16-digit network ID comes in. Okay, so you're going to want to paste that in here, right? Just copy and paste it. So once you have that, then you'll have access to the network. And then you can go ahead and see it in the same spot as this one. Okay, you might not be called call to power. It might be called something else, right? And it will definitely have a different code than this. Okay, this is that code that you put in. But you'll see in here, there will be a connect option for you rather than reconnect. Once you've done that, though, then you will see quite a few different other options in here. And we'll know that we're connected because we can see this little check mark right next to it, right? So you'll see this little check mark, not this one up here where it says allow managed addresses, although that one's important as well. Make sure that one's checked. But we want to have this check mark right here to make sure that we are good. If you never want to start it again as well, you can also click Start UI at Login, although I don't really think that that's particularly useful. I just usually like starting it manually. So now that we have that out of the way, we have another task to accomplish, and that is finding where our call to power installation is, right? So call to power installations can be in various different locations throughout your PC. One of the most common ones is through Steam, right? So this is the call to power mod manager just released. It's in alpha. If you would like that, it's going to be in the video description as well. But in here, you have the option to add installations, and it can also automatically find Steam-based installations, right? So this right here is the default Steam path, at least for me, right? Obviously, your user is going to be different than Justy, but at the same time, you will be able to see the default Steam path that you have, right? So obviously, you probably won't have your Steam path in documents either, right? That's a custom thing, but it will look in the default Steam directory for you. But likewise, let's open up this installation folder, and wherever your Steam apps are located, right, it'll be in Steam, Steam apps, common, call to power 2, right? Or likewise, you can put call to power 1 wherever you would like as well. Both of these games are portable. Now, inside of here, we're not going to place the files inside of this directory for the next program, but we are going to go into CTP2 program or CTP program. Again, if you're using call to power 1, then we're going to go to CTP. You'll know that you're in the right directory if you see ctp2.exe and all of these other files around here. Depending on whether or not you have the line endings displaying, you might not see the .exe part. Just look for the CTP2 and this icon. So what you're going to want to do now is we're going to want to download something a little bit different. So now that we've done all of that, we're going to want to look around for the IPX Wrapper. Now, IPX Wrapper, yeah, here. So this bullet point right here, on this here, you'll see, if you right click and open tab, this is IPX Wrapper. You can also go to this GitHub link as well, and I will have that in the description too. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to be careful, okay? Because you don't want to download this source zip file, okay? Because this source zip file is full of the source code, right? So you don't want the source code, you want the finished program. Likewise, you're not going to click on source code down here for either the zip or the .tar.gz. You're going to want to click IPX Wrapper 0.7.1.zip. Once you click that, it will go into your downloads folder. Okay. And then what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to hit extract all. Okay. Once this pops up, you can choose to show the extracted files when complete if you want. I'm going to turn that off for now. That'll just pop up a different folder with it. Then we're going to hit extract. So that's going to extract the zip file for us. And then we're going to want to double click into it and double click into it again. And you will see all of these different parts inside of here. So all of these are going to be useful for us when we go ahead and convert this IPX format to a different format. Okay, so now that we have all of this downloaded and IPX Wrapper is unzipped for us, let's go ahead and right click and click copy. And then from here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to find our directory where we have our folders open. So let's go ahead and go into that, right? So I just went ahead and opened up this directory, And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to paste. And when we paste, we will see the destination already has a file named license.txt. Okay. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to skip this file. It doesn't really matter if you do replace the license. I just like having the original Call to Power license, but it doesn't really matter at all. You can have both, either one of them. So with that being said, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look for these files. Okay, there's direct play win64.reg and direct play win32.reg. Now, these are registry entries. Okay, so what these will do is these will let IPX Wrapper know, hey, there's an executable in here that we want to wrap the IPX calls of. Okay, so it tells it the location of where that is. It's not super important. However, what is super important is that we choose the right one, right? So we have a Win64 and we have a Win32. Now, if you have a 64-bit system, then you want to double-click Direct Play Win64. If you have a 32-bit system, then you want to click Win32. I would say if you're not sure which one to double-click, then I would go with win64.reg and see how it works. If it doesn't work, then maybe try win32.reg. So we're going to double click this. It doesn't hurt to rerun them. Okay, we'll get this scary looking message. Don't worry, IPX Wrapper is perfectly safe and open source. We can go ahead and run that, and we can click on yes. And then once we see that, we can go ahead and see this. Adding information can unintentionally change or delete values and cause components to stop working correctly. So what we're going to want to do is click yes inside of here because this will work. And then once we do, we'll see the keys and values contained have been successfully added to the registry. Okay, and we're going to click OK. And what that has done is that has told our computer, okay, anytime the IPX calls come from exe files within this folder, okay, so ipxconfig.exe or ctp2.exe, we're going to basically run this ipxconfig.exe at the same time. And we're going to mock out those calls for IPX to just UDP calls. So they'll be the modern calls that your computer can understand. So with all of that out of the way, we're going to want to double click on ctp2.exe, or you can also, if you're using the mod manager, obviously click run game, right? For now, we're going to double click on ctp2.exe, and we will have the game launched for us. So in here, we'll be greeted with this start screen. Okay, so we got call to power, we got multiplayer, single player. Obviously for this, we're going to want to choose multiplayer. And then we're going to want to choose IPX as the connection type. Okay, so as it says, this is a local area network connection for users who only have access to IPX connections. Okay, once again, I can't iterate this enough. We're going to want to make sure that before we jump into the IPX part, we have this little check mark next to our network. So if it's not working for you, okay, if you can't connect, please double check to make sure that you have this check mark right next to it. It's incredibly important that you see a screen very similar to this. You shouldn't see reconnect or disconnect, right? You should see just all of these values and then disconnect, okay? So I want you to make sure of that if things aren't working. Likewise, we can hop back into the game. Then we can see, if we go back to IPX, now, instead of crashing the game, it will load up, okay? And we won't have any saved profiles. You might have saved profiles if you played LAN with people recently, but I certainly have not. I don't have any friends to play it with, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and create a profile. And I will put in my Discord username, okay? And I will go ahead and write my location. And the location is completely optional. The only one that is not optional inside of this is the player name and obviously experience level, right? Because you have to select it. Likewise, let's go ahead and set our experience level to be accurate to how much we played the game, right? So if you're a beginner, please choose beginner. If you're, really good at the game, please choose impossible. And by really good at the game, I mean if you regularly play on the hard modes, you should probably choose to tell the world that you do that. because otherwise people will not know, and then they will be quite disadvantaged. So once we go ahead and do that, we'll have our profile selected. Let's click Next. And then now we've entered the lobby. Okay. So in here, if you have other people playing at the same time, let's say this is the time that people are actually going to join the game, then you will see other players inside of here, right? So it won't just be yourself, you'll see the other players. If you don't see the other players, like I said, make sure that you have that the VPN on, the ZeroTier connected and has the check mark. And then let's make sure as well that if we still don't have the people showing up, we just back out and then go back in. Call to Power 2 is quite buggy, and likewise Call to Power 1. So because of that, occasionally people will get randomly disconnected or randomly unable to see other people via IPX. So just make sure you back out and give it a couple of tries before you end up going ahead and doing this. So here's a little bit of an introduction to this entire game, whole lobby system. So we have the chat down here, right? We can type in here, hello world. For whatever reason, it makes that really annoying Windows error sound for me, but it works perfectly fine. And then we can adjust our profile here. Okay. We can also go ahead and change the lobby if we don't want to be inside of that lobby in particular. Right? Let's select our lobby again and go back into it. And then we can also create game, or if somebody has created it, we can select a game and then join it, right? So the idea is that somebody else will probably make the game, or if you're the host of this, then you'll go ahead and make the game. And then we can go ahead and, join the game as it exists. So let's go ahead and try creating a game. Okay. You also get this nice view of this artwork in the background. Then we can go ahead and create new game. And we don't want it to be password protected, right? Because all the people who are joining this will all need to use the network ID anyway, right? To be able to interface with ZeroTier. So because of that, we're going to go ahead and click OK. And then here is the game setup screen, right? So we get the choice to do our game style over here. So we got normal, speed turns, which just puts a turn timer on. Carryover, where you can do a turn timer and it adds on if you do it quicker. So you can go up to like twice the turn timer. And then we have speed cities. Speed cities is what I will usually end up doing. That basically means that it takes a certain amount of time and then per each city, right? So if you have 3 cities and your timer is set at 15 seconds, then it'll be 45 seconds per turn. Okay, so that's the one we're probably going to go with. So here we can see, instead of here, we can rename the game because we created it, right? Might not be able to rename it if you didn't create the game. Additionally, we'll go ahead and choose our nation to go with. Let's just, for the purpose of this, choose American. We can choose our starting gold and our settlers. Now, the reason we can choose starting gold and settlers is, again, because we created the game, right? You might not be able to choose it. So additionally, one thing to do, right, is if we go into rules, we can choose dynamic join to be on. Now, I highly recommend you choose dynamic join to be on with this. The reason is everybody will likely have a very high ping because they'll likely be very, very far from each other. So if somebody loses connection, they want to be able to hop back in to the game to be able to play their same civilization and take over from the AI again. Without dynamic join on, that isn't possible. You can also customize quite a few things about the map, about the difficulty, etc., and barbarians and stuff like that. Additionally, there's just exclusions where you can choose to exclude certain things from the game, right? So if you have a certain preference towards things, you can exclude certain things. And then we also have an Add AI button, right? So again, Add AI just adds in the artificial intelligence and then we'll fill out for them. So yeah, once you're done with all of that, we can choose to lock it if we want. I don't, again, recommend it because dynamic join is very handy, but if you wanted to, there it is. We can also choose to review, and review will give this output in the chat that will tell you what each of the settings is on. And then when we are finished, we can click on launch, which will launch the game with all of our friends. So again, to review, we want to go ahead and make sure that we have the dynamic join on, and we want to make sure that we've set all of our rules that we want, right? If you don't want pollution on, you can set it to not have pollution on. If you want the world shape to be a donut world, you can choose that as well. So with all of that recapped, let's go back out to the lobby. and then back out again. Once again, if you lose connection to a game, you can always go ahead and come back in, and if they have dynamic join on, you can join back in the game through the game's list. So keep that in mind. And if we back all the way out of call to power, then there is something else that we can talk about as well, and that is mods. So this technique will also work with very specific mods. Okay, so one of the mods that it works with is the Super Polyton Pack, okay? Polyton Pack V2 rather. So I have that added inside of the mod manager. If you're interested in this mod manager, again, links in the description. However, keep in mind that it is an alpha, of course. It's still highly under work, and not all mods are compatible. For example, Cradle, unfortunately, is not compatible at the moment. So you can see I've been trying to test it out. However, if we wanted to, for example, apply the mod to this, right, we would just have to click on the little check mark right here to click the Polyton pack. Then we would want to go ahead and click on the installation we want to apply it to, and we scroll down to the bottom, and we click Apply Selected. So now you can see Polyton pack CTP2, the way that it should be, is now selected, and it will load up properly. Looks exactly the same because, again, it's a Polyton pack, so because of that, it just does a bunch of bug fixes and whatnot, but yeah, the mod is applied successfully. So, with all of that out of the way, once you're done playing the game, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come over here and go into your ZeroTier, and you're going to want to click on Disconnect. Okay. Now you don't have to quit out of the entire app, although you can certainly do that if you want to. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and make sure you're disconnected at the end, right? Because otherwise you're maintaining a connection with all of those other computers, and it's just unnecessary and will lead to slower internet on your part. You can also quit ZeroTier, like I said. However, if you want to, you don't have to do that. So, yeah. Please let me know in the comments section if I missed anything and if you're having any trouble, and I'll go ahead and make sure to amend this video. But yeah, also make sure to join the Discord as well, the Call to Power Discord. We are going to be using this method to play a lot of games, and it's going to be very, very fun. So please do hop in there.